Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Eric Lowe, and I'm the Industry Partner Program Manager here at ASID. Thank you for joining us for today's ASID Partner Spotlight webinar, proudly presented by Programa, an ASID Industry Partner member. For those who may not know ASID or be new to ASID, I want you to know we are the largest community of interior design professionals, representing more than 20,000 members across the residential, commercial, healthcare, hospitality, education, and place design sectors. ASID is dedicated to advancing the profession through education, research, advocacy, and meaningful connections that empower designers and the industry as a whole. The ASID Partner Spotlight webinar series is one of the many ways we bring our community together. These webinars connect our members with leading manufacturers, industry partners, and subject matter experts to explore innovative products, emerging trends, and practical insights that can help elevate their design practice, all from the convenience of a virtual setting. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that we'll reserve time at the end of today's presentation for a live Q&A session. If you have questions during the webinar, please submit them using the Q&A or chat feature in the webinar controls. I'll be happy to share as many of your questions as time allows. Today, we're excited to have two presenters with us. We have Lexie Gillies and also Claire Scattini with Programa. Today, they'll show us how Programa, the all-in-one project and business management platform designed specifically for interior designers and studios, streamline workflows, manage projects more efficiently, and grow a successful design business. We're delighted to have them both here to share more about Programa and how it will help you and your business. With that, it's my pleasure to turn things over to Lexie, who's going to kick off today's presentation.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Eric, for that lovely introduction. As Eric said, I'm Lexie Gillies. I am the head of customer experience here at Programa, and I'm joined with my colleague Claire Scattini, who is one of our senior account managers who deals with our studios day in, day out. And both of us are actually former interior designers as well, so we have lots of experience in the industry.
That's right. Hi, all. I'm Claire. I spend most of my week talking to studio owners and project managers about exactly what we're covering today. So I will be jumping in with some real examples as we go.
Fantastic. Just as Eric said as well, if you do have questions throughout the presentation, pop them right into that Q&A chat. We will be sure to leave time at the end to answer all of your questions and also offer up a specific ASID discount code for your members. So we're going to be running through our overall presentation will probably be about 30 to 40 minutes. And like I said, we'll leave probably 15 minutes or so at the end to do Q&A. So getting started, we like to think about design. Nobody really got into the industry to open a studio because we love chasing orders or making revisions on design documentation. You really started a studio because you love design, right? And the craft, the client relationships, the feeling of a finished space. But somewhere along the way, admin creeps in, and it doesn't creep in slowly and predictably. It expands faster than your capacity to deal with it.
Yeah, that's honestly the number one thing I hear on client calls. It's never we need more design talent, but it's more so that we can't keep up with everything happening in the design work. And that's really what we're focusing in on today.
Yeah, exactly. So this session is practical and forward-looking. We're going to talk honestly about where the time actually goes and then spend real time on the systems and habits that give you that time back.
Hmm.
So to dive in, we're going to go way back, probably further than expected, because it actually explains a lot about why studios feel the way they do today. Design used to be inseparable from making. So, for example, William Morris of Morris & Co. was a designer, a craftsman, and a businessman all at once. The value of his work came from the hand. There was no gap between designing and doing.
Yeah. Elsie DeWolf is widely credited as the first professional interior designer. She's the person who turned having good taste into a paid and structured profession in the early 1900s. That's the moment design starts to become a business with client and fees, and then eventually paperwork. So that's the arc. Designing started at the bench, became a profession, and then somewhere along the way, design became documentation.
So, where does our time really go? As studios professionalized, a whole layer of documentation grew around the actual design work. Specs, purchase orders, budgets, approvals, none of it is necessarily optional within our process as designers, but it all takes time, right? And it's all equally as important. And all of this kept expanding until, without anyone really deciding it should happen, the designer, us ourselves, kind of became the de facto project manager as well.
Yeah, definitely. I see this a lot in my accounts. The most talented designers have also become their unofficial studio bookkeeper, project manager, procurement manager, scheduler, and nobody was trained for that and nobody budgeted time for it.
No, 100%.
Yeah, 36% of a studio's owner or a studio owner's week goes to admin.
Which is a super high percentage. Um, so even if you're working, say, like a normal 40-hour work week, that's over 16 hours. So 2 full working days every single week just on admin, which is a ton. So let's go through a typical week together. This can include a variety of things, right? So we're chasing supplier emails, quote requests, orders, following up with clients, invoicing, reconciliation, the list goes on. And that being said, not only are you doing a million things in a week, but you're also utilizing multiple platforms at once to complete one job. And often, I mean, I'm guilty of this too, of the actual design happening after hours, whether that's like when you put your kids to bed or you're on the weekend, you're pulling up your SketchUp and doing the actual design because your daily hours are being taken up with admin. So the point isn't that any one of these things or tasks is unreasonable because it's part of the project on its own. It's that together quietly, they're taking over your calendar and the design time shrinks without anybody really deciding that it should. And when we were thinking about what the four biggest culprits of sucking up all of our design time, we were thinking about some of our personal, I don't want to say horror stories, but kind of just the realities of designing. So Claire had a, whoops, kind of funny story that we wanted to share.
Yeah, yeah. We were just talking about kind of how we have been affected in our personal careers. And one thing that came to mind was a project I was working on a couple of years ago. It was a bathroom renovation. We had done all of the documentation needed. All of our specification sheets were up to date. We had tags, we had dot codes, everything was organized. We had all of our drawings, all of our elevations, and everything was shared amongst the entire team, or so we thought, until I got to site and the shower was supposed to be subway on the wall, penny tile on the floor. Very simple. It had a niche. The subway went into the niche just as normal. Very, very simple job. And I walk in and unfortunately notice straight away that they're grouting and my penny tile is in the niche, which is not what I specified. So just really frustrating. And, I'm asking the trades, hey, what happened? Why is that where it is? That's not what was in any of our drawing sets or any of the information shared with your team. And they said, well, we couldn't find the information. And so we just assumed. And that was frustrating for me. And I realized that if, they had an up-to-date live version, if they had easy access while on site, if I had shared a live version so that they didn't have to worry about having the old paperwork or something like that, it would have maybe made this issue not happen. And we had actually lost a lot of time and a little bit of money on this too. We ended up having to order more tile. We had to undo what was done. We had to add on a whole day and a half of work, and all of our other trades that needed to do their work had to bump over. So it really sets you back, just a small mistake. And we realized we need to figure out a way to make that not happen ever again.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so relatable. I remember you telling me this story, and I had the almost exact same experience. And I'm sure everybody on this call has probably experienced something similar where the information's just getting lost and it's just being filtered through too many hands. And so we're just trying to figure out ways to make this entire process easier so you're not losing hours and money.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of working at the end of the day if we're not making money, right?
Hmm.
Well, that being said, we wanted to kind of make this a little bit of an interactive moment. So we were curious that if you had more time, or if you had the capacity, I should say, not your next project, but your someday project, bigger scope, more complexity, the one that kind of excites you but feels just one step too far, what would it be? So I'll give you about 30 seconds or so to pop those in the chat, just kind of what your dream project would be.
Yeah. While everyone is typing, I will tell you what my dream is. My dream would be to take on some boutique hotels. So, I have, done some multi-residential. I've done a lot of residential work. I've kind of, floated around. But what I would really, really like and what I think would give me a lot of creativity is working on a boutique hotel where you have a little bit more room to think outside the box. I stay in hotels that I'm like, oh wow, you can tell that the designer had fun with this. They got to do some custom work and they got to think outside the box, and I think that would be really, really fun. What about you, Lexi?
Well, I'm kind of the same, and it's funny. I'm reading the chat right now, and almost everybody said boutique hotels. Yeah, this is definitely every designer's dream because we can be so creative with it. My background's also in residential design, so as much as unless you have that dream client that like gives you complete full reign, we don't really have full creative control. I've done a couple of restaurants and bars, and I love the hospitality design space as well, just because I'm a big foodie. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand with hospitality, hotels, etc. Um, but yeah, I think after reading some of the examples too, is all boutique hotels, restaurants, kitchen games rooms, headquarter. Oh wow, this is cool, Melissa. North American headquarter that serves as a boutique hotel co-working space for global employees. A project that's not limited to one sector or mid-level budget, which is
Cool.
I think is a key factor too. It's not that mid-level budget, but you have like the higher ranges. Um,
Mhm.
Yachts and air travel. That's really cool.
Love that.
Yeah, we actually have a couple yacht designers that use Programa, funny enough.
True, true.
Yeah. But I think the kind of the consensus is similar where we get into the industry because we love design and we love the creative components of it. And really, we're trying to find more time to do what we love.
Hmm.
Yeah, you agree?
Very true, very true.
So, kind of leaning into what we were just talking about there, the honest reality of scaling a studio and going from 2 to 3 projects to 5 or 6, it isn't necessarily a confidence problem. It's more of a structural one, right? So more projects means just more moving parts. Schedules, orders, approvals, everything multiplies. So you're having to track more information.
Mhm.
And it means just coordinating visibility across multiple projects, ideally larger projects, which means you need a more standardized system in place so that you're not getting that bottleneck of your projects. And there's just more at stake and on the line because you're getting larger budgets, there's more cash flow coming in, and the client's really trusting the systems that you have in place for your business as well.
Yeah, definitely. The studios I see scaling easiest or more easily are putting systems in place before they need it rather than after. And really, what it comes down to, and you're right, is the systems. So just like
Mhm.
committing to having a specific system in place, or creating that standard practice and committing to that standard practice.
I was going to say, I think commitment is the key word there. And because it's easy, I think we all have that idea in the back of our minds that we want things to run smoother, and we have the idea that we know we need to implement these resources. But genuinely giving yourself the time to do that, even if it's one weekend, to kind of try and set yourself up. And we're going to walk through it, how it is pretty straightforward to get set up on different systems and kind of have it all in one place, which is a key point too, is that we're using ideally one or two system softwares as opposed to five or six that I see a lot of the design studios um, digging into.
Mm-hmm.
So, to connect all this to say, the hours you reclaim from admin are the hours that fund your next project. Systems aren't the loss of creativity, they're what makes space for more.
Mm-hmm.
So, that being said, instead of just speaking to you about all of these features in abstract, I want to show you what it actually looks like inside Programa. So, I'm going to open up my Programa here. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the Programa main page. So if you're not familiar, this is where all of your live projects would live. So the idea of, even having 8 projects, you can see the visibility across the main projects page, and then everything connects to your tools here on the left side. So the idea of this presentation today is I don't necessarily want to take you through every single tool because that would take an hour. But I want to kind of get the point across that you're not double doing data entry, and that as you're moving from concept design, design development, procurement, approvals, invoicing, etc., all the way through to construction, all of that product data and project data lives in one place. So you're not kind of scrambling across emails and client approvals and all of that data. It's all organized in one space, and you're really only implementing product data at one time. So that being said, I'm going to go into my New York project here. So every project has a centralized dashboard for that project itself, where you can see a quick glance of who's working on the project, your clients, how many hours you've tracked so far, and uh, how much product you've specified into the project so far. So kind of where your budget's sitting. And then you have all of your files that associate to this project, whether it's mood boards, presentations, schedules, etc. So for this example, I'm going to dive into my design presentation first. So this is a presentation tool built directly inside Programa. So it's essentially a replacement for Canva, InDesign, those types of platforms. So if I scroll through, you can do your concept designing, you can add in your own custom fonts, logos, etc. You could do more concept mood boarding. Or as you can see here, we can actually get into the design development phase where I have my floor plans with pinned scenes and renders on top of it. And down the bottom here, I have an elevation. So for this example, you'll see on the right-hand side, I have a couple of things pinned directly on top of my elevation. So the idea is that I'm taking technical spec data and I'm applying that to the visual component. So I have my cornices, I have curtains, paint, the stone top for my custom cabinet, and my laminate all already pinned on top of the image. Now, what I want to do is find the pendant light that is associated to this drawing as well. So if I went on to the product website, which I already have up, so I'm actually on Lightform's website. And what I'm going to do is we have a tool called the Programa Web Clipper. So this is a Google Chrome extension. I don't think you can see what I'm sharing, but it lives up in my toolbar. So it looks like our Programa logo. And this has AI components built into it. So I can use this smart fill button, and within a couple of seconds, it's actually pulling the images, it pulls all of the product data, the back link to the website, the measurements, I'll just have to add in my quantity in there, and you can always add in your trade price later. So once you're happy with all of that data, I can use this clip button and I'm going to choose the project that it's going into. So I'm going to add it back into this New York project under product selections in the living room. So now that that's gone green, essentially it's added it into my schedule. So what I'm going to do is use this pin button. Sorry, I got to move my zoom for a second. There we go. We're going to do pin product. So again, it's making this interactive where I'm going to search light. This is that pendant light I just clipped from the website. I'm going to hit pin and actually click on top. So now I can hover over and see that this is the actual pendant light that's going on my elevation. So in a couple seconds, like already that product data is connected. From here, I can also edit that data. So if I wanted to get client approval for that light off of my elevation, I can. So I'm going to hit edit product. I'm going to change the status at the top here to client review. You can add in your supplier details if they exist already, which is important if you want to send out purchase orders from the system. It's connected to whoever your trade rep is. And then once you're ready to share it to a client-facing version, I would just hit the share button and publish it to the client dashboard. So everything is done via email to your clients, so they don't need to make a Programa login, nothing like that. It's all just a live link that they can access. Again, you can turn on and off what they can and can't see, so you do have version control over that. And if you like hard copies, you can always export this to PDF. Now, in this example, I want to show you how interactive it all is, obviously. So this is a client-facing dashboard. So that's where, like I said, everything for the project lives. So I have all of my live spec sheets. I have my two different presentation packages. So I have a furniture proposal as well as a design presentation that's more technical. I have all of my invoices that I've already sent and also shared documents with the client. So it's that kind of one-stop shop where everything lives. Now here it says feedback needed. So that is where I just put approval for the items. So your client can click in. You can then filter by a status. So you can do feedback required, which brings up that light. What I did was just click it so they can see it's flashing there. It's orange and it means that it needs approval and feedback. So here, if I hover over, oops, I just zoomed in. You can see the total cost for that product. They can see it on a visual and approve. Leave you comments if you wish. Ta-da! So again, that all filters back directly into my spec sheets. So it's all connected to all of the product and financial data. So you can add as much custom spec details that you want in the details tray. So this is a final light fixture. The benefit of it is, like I said, it's all interconnected to this schedule. So then I can go and create an invoice for the approved product. So I'm going to do it live just so I can show you how easy it is. So I'm going to create an invoice. You can set all of this up in Programa to be customized with your logo, payment terms, and then I'm just going to hit add from schedule. So it's going to, again, pull up that product automatically. I'm going to search for what's been approved. And voila, there's my light. Hit add. Now we do integrate with QuickBooks and Xero as accounting platforms. If you so wish, you can integrate that as well. And then I'm just going to hit send invoice. You can collect payment through Programa Pay. Again, optional. It gives you that option if you wish. But it'll create a nice, beautiful invoice for your clients to pay online or pay you through your Zelle, Venmo, however you wish to collect payment that way. Nice thing about it, again, it's all interconnected. So My pendant light would then be changed to invoiced, and it would also be changed to paid once that invoice was paid. You can manually mark them as paid. And then if I go as far to then place my purchase order, this is an example of a PO. It's connected directly from that schedule as well, again, in a really nice clean format. So in a couple clicks, I can send the spec sheet directly to my vendor so that they can send me an invoice for payment. Voila. I go back to my project. I can show you now that status has been updated to paid. So I can go into procurement, place my orders, send out my purchase order, etc. And that all syncs back onto your client portal. Again, all directly linked up. They can click into anything that you give them access to. And if we want to take it one step further, you can also export out QR codes. So these are live and interactive. Feel free to scan this code that's on the screen right now if you wish to see that live material schedule. So every time you make a change or make an update, trades, clients, whoever has access to it will be able to see the most updated live version of that spec sheet. So hopefully there's no tile errors in the future.
Yeah, that would have saved my penny tile problem for sure.
I
I,
think so.
yeah, I now like to print these out and laminate them, and I keep them on job site so that anybody working on site can scan it and access both the live up-to-date information along with the attachments if I have installation docs or anything like that. And then we're also able to produce QR codes back to those presentations so that not only are they looking at the products and the specs and the attachments, but they can also see my entire documentation package. So
Mhm.
really connecting all the dots and making sure there's just no room for error and everything's live and up to date. So I don't have to worry about it, which is nice. So that being said, the one thing I want you to really notice about what Lexie is showing us is that nothing here was rebuilt. The spec, the PO, the invoice, all of them come from the same underlying data, just viewed differently depending on who's looking. She web clipped that one product and then we used it throughout that entire process.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's really the whole philosophy of Programa is just having one systemized area that captures information one time at the point it's created, and then that flows naturally through the rest of the project.
Yeah.
And kind of just to reiterate, so it really creates the foundations of what you just saw. So it's centralized specs, client-facing invoicing, linked purchase orders, procurement connected to the actual product itself. So you're not having to double change revisions, etc. It's all kind of interconnected and gives you that cross-project visibility, which is exactly the coordination problem we raised a few minutes ago about scaling from 3 projects to 6.
Yeah, definitely. If I was not repeating information and updating Excel spreadsheets miles long, that would give me a lot of time back to do the design work, which is cool.
Yeah.
So this is your time to ask us anything. We're gonna hop into some Q&A, so feel free to drop your questions, and I believe Eric is going to pop back up with us. So we do have a poll or quiz up on the screen, so if you don't have questions, feel free to um, kind of vote on that as well. And we will take some Q&A from the chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Lexi. Thank you, Claire. As mentioned, we're going to begin the Q&A. You can either use the Q&A panel or Q&A button located in the control panel or the chat. So we have a few that came in through the Q&A button. I don't know if anyone can see that, but I have those here. And either of you feel free to answer these. First one here, how long does it usually take a studio to get set up and actually start seeing their time back?
Claire, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. It really depends on the
Mhm.
studio, where you're coming from, what experience you have previously, and also what how tech savvy you are. But I would say on average, it takes between 3 weeks to a month for studios to be fully integrated, feeling comfortable, and saving time. But honestly, if we just focus in on schedules, which is really the meat and potatoes, that's going to be your most important tool where you should focus first. I feel like you can get schedules down really quickly, especially with that clipper scraping tool and add from URL that can really speed up processes, and you save so much time using a web clipper over just copying and pasting data over and over and over again. So I would say on average about a month. Some studios are faster, some are a little bit slower. If you are moving over from another platform, or if you have any Excel files that you want to move over from another project, we're always happy to support that. We do have a
Mhm.
tool to move over your data, so that makes starting out and, getting everything squared away for any upcoming or current projects really, really easy and fast. And if you have an address book or information elsewhere, we're always happy to help you in migrating that data as well. So we try to make it as smooth a process as possible.
Wonderful. Here, another one from Emily in the Q&A. How do you integrate keeping track of specs for commercial projects that require submittals? Can you document revisions with change orders or an ASI?
Yes, in theory. So you can, when you're exporting the PDFs, you can put on revision dates onto the documents. It also exports with the date on it already. But if you need a specific like rev code, I guess you could say. And then you can flag the products that have multiple revisions on them. Am I still sharing my screen? You can, I'll show you two quickly. In the actual product itself, in the approvals, you can see how many times it's been changed. So I have all of my history of the product itself um, through being approved multiple times. So you do have all of that data.
Great. Thanks, Lexi. Get one here from the chat. How does that work so this was during your presentation.
Okay.
How does it work when materials are different for each and every project?
Every project is its own entity. I'm assuming we're talking about approvals and things. So if I go back to the main page, all of these projects are separated. So we do have something called the product library, which is generic that you can save items into, but every single project that you're specifying into a specific schedule becomes its own product data. So if you edit it, it's not affecting what's in another project.
Yeah. And I always recommend with product library to really be curated. Think
Mm.
about what you're putting into your product library. It shouldn't be just a dumping ground for every product you've ever used ever. Because we don't always want to use a product again. Sometimes we use a product and it doesn't hold up the way we want it to, or it's not really our style, but it worked for this specific project, whatever it might be. So really think about when we're adding things to our product library, keeping it curated and making it really your studio's favorite items. I always relate it to the book from the Devil Wears Prada. So that is your go-to items, your staple pieces, anything that you're going to use across multiple projects. If we're using the same Toto bidet 100 times a year, put it in the product library so you don't have to respec it. Otherwise, your web clipper is going to really speed up processes. So creating those spec sheets that are completely unique is very easy and fast.
100%.
Thank you both. Another one here from the chat. What would you say is the most important benefit of having Programa?
Ooh, the most important. Well, there's so many. Um, I want to say, I mean, so generic to say it saves you time, but I think the schedules for sure, if especially if you're used to doing manual data entry and you're still using a Google Sheets or Excel document, I always make the joke, it's not even a joke because it's a true story because I use Programa. We both did in our studios before we worked for them. And the first day I used the web clipper, I literally teared up because I couldn't believe at how much time I saved. And I didn't have to manually type every single measurement. So I'd say that's probably the benefit is just not doing manual data entry and it looks pretty.
Yeah.
Claire, do you agree?
Yes, I would say also, just to add to that, and what really, really helped me in my studio was having everything in one place.
Yeah.
The fact that all of my schedules, all of my presentations, the financial data, the invoices, the POs are all saved in one centralized location so that it's easier for both my client to go back to all of their things in one place, and they don't have to dig through email to try to find something I sent them a month ago.
Hmm.
But also I have everything in one place and it's not taking up space on my desktop. I'm not saving a million pictures to my desktop so that I can come back to them later. They live in my image library so I can use them across other projects. And it just saves a lot of time and energy, also saves space. Um, a big problem in our studio was that we had a lot on paper. We didn't have a ton of it digitized, and so we relied on binders, which leaves a lot of space for things to get lost. And if one person has the binder, or if one person's working on a document that's not live and shared with the rest of the team, then nobody else can work on it and nobody else can access it or view it. And that's a time suck right there. So keeping everything in one place, I would say, would be my number one thing alongside all the rest.
Wonderful. Here's another one. We're midway through a big project on another system. How
Mhm.
disruptive is it to switch?
Really depends on the phase of the project you're in. We usually good rule of thumb is if you're kind of past client approvals, it gets a little bit more hairy to switch over. Just because if you're invoicing already for product, it's kind of can be tricky to have them in two different places. Um, so I would say, yeah, if you're kind of just before procurement phase, it would be pretty easy, smooth transition. Sometimes you have to have two projects in two different places, which we are equipped to help you make that transition smooth. Like that's not the first time that we've seen that or help studios kind of make a smooth transition over. And as Claire mentioned earlier, we have importing tools to get your product data into the system so you're not completely starting from scratch.
Great, thank you. Next one here from the chat. Are all the available marketplace brands, oh, someone just moved. Are all the available marketplace brands available as procurement integrations?
Marketplace brand. As in, do we have brands on Programa? I'm guessing is the question.
Yeah, Jody, if you want to kind of clarify in the chat, we can come back to that.
Yeah, I guess if from my understanding, if I'm thinking we don't have a specific trade portal currently for our US market where you are essentially specifying from Programa. That is something where we have a whole brand side of the platform in Australia that we are wanting to move over to North America. Um, but yes, you're not necessarily you can use any brands in the world on Programa, if that's the question. It doesn't restrict you to specific ones.
I think could be also helpful just to clarify. I don't know that this is answering the question, but like in the case that you're sourcing from a trade exclusive site, so if you're, let's say we're like specing Four Hands products, you have to have a login to Four Hands in order to see the products.
Mhm.
You can use those. You can use a web clipper. It will scrape the data and
Yeah.
you'll have no issue. So if that's the question, maybe.
And the brands be integrated.
Okay.
Oh, she said. She said, can the brands be integrated if we choose who our vendors are? Yes, like you can use the web scraping tools on the trade logged in websites, as Claire just said.
And Jody, if you want, just let us know. We can have Lexi or Claire follow up with you further.
For
All
sure.
right, next one here, and actually there's multiple questions about finance and accounting. So I'm going to kind
Mhm.
of lump them all into one, which basically the question is, does Programa replace our accounting software or work alongside it? And can I export that as well?
We work alongside your accounting software. Programa gives you the ability to create and issue invoices and collect payment on invoices, but you are not doing your accounting through Programa. So we integrate with QuickBooks or Xero, and you can export any invoices. Yes,
And you can deal with any refunds or disputes directly with the platform as well.
true. Yes.
As a solo designer, is this system overkill for me?
Absolutely not. If anything, we're making your life easier. We kind of joke that Programa is your second employee, that because it's giving you, it's kind of creating that system for you that an assistant would be. And so you are feeling more organized and therefore able to take on more projects.
And it'll help you scale your business.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Time for a couple more here. Well, this is interesting. If a studio could only fix one thing first, where should they start?
Claire?
Schedules. 100% schedules. Schedules are going to be the most important, I think. I do love our other tools. I love presentations. I love that you can kind of work everything together. But really, when it comes down to it, schedules can be our biggest time suck. A lot of studios are manually copying and pasting information into an Excel spreadsheet, which has to be manually updated, which has to be checked constantly, which has to be PDF'd all the time. So if we can move over into schedules first and really focus in on a standard practice with our schedules, then that's going to save you time and money. So that's where I would focus my energy if I was just getting started, and beginning the process of creating a standardized practice. I would focus my energy and time on schedules.
Yeah, agreed. Because like you said, there's tons of tools on Programa, but Schedules is the heart of the platform. So it connects to all the other tools. So if you can nail that, then you're kind of set up for success for everything else.
Totally.
Perfect. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So last question here, and then I'll provide these to Lexi and Claire to follow up if we weren't able to answer your question today.
Sure.
All right, last one here. Is there a student version so we can learn how to use Programa and then advocate for its use when we get out there, out there in the design field, I assume?
Yeah, we don't have a specific student version per se, but we do offer student discounts. So if you want to contact us after this call, I'm happy to set you up with a student. We just need proof of your enrollment.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. On behalf of ASID, I'd like to extend our sincere thanks to Programa for sharing their time, expertise, and insights with our community today. We truly appreciate their partnership and commitment to supporting the design profession. A recording of this webinar will be sent to you in the coming days. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us for today's session. We hope you found the conversation informative and valuable, and we look forward to having you join us again for future ASID Partner Spotlight webinars. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Eric. We really appreciate everybody's time today, and I hope you loved hearing about Programa, and we hope to see you on the platform in the future. Thanks again. We love partnering with ASID.